Welcome back. We've got a great pod for you today. I love talking to other fire spouses, and we've got a new one today. Kristen Hampson. She's a proud firefighter wife and a mom to two little ones who keep life loud and busy and full of love. She's passionate about having real, unfiltered conversations about the mental health challenges and unique rhythms of the fire family life. After walking through postpartum anxiety, depression, PTSD, all while juggling the fire schedule, Kristen knows firsthand how tough and how important it is to find balance. She loves sharing practical strategies for taking care of yourself, your marriage, and your family while supporting a first responder. When she's not in full-on mom mode, you'll probably find her laughing with friends, chasing a little quiet time, or savoring that rare, magical moment of drinking her coffee while it's still hot. I have never done such thing. That thing goes in the microwave at least 5 times. Are you ready to carry on with Kristen? Let's go, crew. All right. Kristen, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you.
Oh, I'm honored to be here.
Okay. First of all, tell me how you drink your coffee hot, because I know that very rarely happens for most moms.
Yeah, so I have it in a tumbler. I always make my coffee in a coffee tumbler. And in fact, I have no idea where it's at in the house right now. It still has coffee in it. So, but I know it's warm. So if I do find it by the end of the day, it'll still be warm.
Okay. That's actually brilliant. I've gone back and forth about what is it called, that ember cup, that it's
Yes.
always stays warm, but it's very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Tumblers, Yeti tumblers.
brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Solves the problem.
Yep.
Okay. I love that. So tell me about you.
Yeah, so I am, well, first off, this month I'm turning 40, so I'm really excited about that. I'm married to a firefighter. He's been in for 10 years. We met right after he started, and so that was something he was in his probie year when I was meeting him, so all the things that come with that. I had my own career. I was very career-oriented and was doing my own thing. I worked in Major League Baseball for almost 10 years and then transitioned into healthcare. So I had my own thing going. We met. We just hit it off. And from there, I guess you could say the rest is history. So
Hold on. No, back up to the MLB part.
yeah.
I'm a baseball nut.
Oh my
So
gosh, great. So I've always loved baseball growing up. And it was something that when I was in college, I saw that they had internships and I was so adamant about being an intern. And so the city I was in, I pushed and pushed. And then I got an internship and then that rolled into a full-time job. I was there for almost 5 years before I went to another team, was there for about 5 years. And it was, honestly, probably one of the best jobs I ever had.
oh my God, that
Yeah.
sounds so
Yeah.
fun.
Yes.
Okay, so your husband was a probie when you met.
Yeah. Yep. So I think he was only about 6 or 7 months in when we first met. So it was all very new to him. And obviously, it was very new to me. I actually do have family members who are first responders. So I'm very used to, obviously, what shift work is like and then the impacts of their jobs. But it was something where, actually being in a relationship with one, seeing it firsthand. Obviously, he was in the beginning of his career. So he was very excited, very new. And it was, it was a blast. It was really fun meeting a bunch of the people within the department. But it was a good time.
So you got married, and obviously he was off probation.
Yeah, so we got married in 2018, towards the end of 2018. Yeah, he was kind of smooth sailing. His department was doing a lot of hiring. So he was kind of now becoming kind of that middle of the ladder firefighter. And so it was great. It was smooth sailing, always supporting him and what he wanted to do. He ended up deciding he wanted to become a driver engineer. So went down that route. He was very excited about that. But it's just very interesting to kind of learn the ins and outs of the fire life and then how it just impacts every family member at home as well.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward, you guys get married, you have one baby, and then you have another baby.
Yes. Yeah. So
How close are they?
So they're actually almost 3 years apart, which
Okay.
was not ideal. It was not the plan at first. So
Mhm.
when we decided to have children, we were married for a little bit and we decided, okay, hey, we're going to go ahead and start trying. Being a little bit older than I am, it took a little bit of time. In fact, we just thought, okay, we might have to go in for testing. And so it was in 2020, we were trying. And then COVID hit and we had to make a decision, do we stay on this path and just go for it? And we said, yeah, this is the plan. We're going to go for it. In fact, we were only a couple months away from having to go and get all this testing done. And then we got pregnant. So we're in the height of the pandemic and I find out I'm pregnant. And before, like, I'm a pretty, like, before all this, I was a very, like, mentally tough person. Like, I had that grit that everyone talks about, and nothing could take me down. And I wasn't going to let this take me down. I thought, okay, so appointments are going to look different. He's not going to be able to go there. We're just going to ride this out, and it'll be an experience. And so we did that. At 20 weeks, I found out I was high risk. So, and at the time, my husband, he was at the hazmat station. So he was on the hazmat team, and they were actually using his station to be the designated station to go for all the disinfecting. So whether that be fire, police, they all went to his station. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's probably getting exposed to so much, who even knows, on top of everything else they're exposed to. And I'm like, okay, this is fine. I'm at home working. Like, this is going to be okay. So it was not a normal pregnancy just on its own. And then being high risk, we went in and they said, hey, you have developmental cord insertion. The maternal fetal doctor, she came in, she goes, don't Google it. Don't Google it. So what do I naturally do?
Google it.
Google it.
Yeah.
And it sent me into a tailspin. I thought, oh my gosh, this could end at any second. I could hemorrhage. I could bleed out. I was just like, oh, what happens if you're at work? What do I do? So that kind of like started things and just made things not normal. And then we thought we couldn't find a heartbeat at 25 weeks. And then we're in the OBED and they're trying to find a heartbeat. They can't find a heartbeat. I'm in a mask hyperventilating. I ripped the mask off. I was like, I can't do this. And they finally found one, thank goodness. And so then everything was just like normal as it could be during the pandemic.
Yeah, no such thing.
Yeah, and so I had my daughter. Everything was fine. She was perfectly healthy. We get home and it's just like, there's no village. And my husband, we're very fortunate where we live. We live in Washington State. And so up here, we do have paid family medical leave. But with the department, there's this weird underlying, like, you just don't take it, you figure it out, you make trades. And so that's what my husband did. He made trades and he was able to take off about a month. They do all of their shift picks and trades and vacations in like November. So he had actually taken a lot of those during the front end of the year. So he had that all set up, got about a month off. But during that time, like after we came home, we had maybe like 2 visitors. 2 people come by to help. And during that time, unfortunately, my grandmother, she lived in California, but she was diagnosed with melanoma that had metastasized. And so she was in the hospital. My mom was not around. It was not a normal experience postpartum. Then I will never forget, my husband was going back on shift for the very first time. It was March 11th of 2021. And I thought to myself, okay, I can do this. It's 24 hours. I got this. And then my mom calls me about 2:30 p.m. and she said, hey, grandma died. Huh. And I just thought, okay, so here I am trying to navigate this. And it's like, you can't call your husband and be like, my grandma's dead. I don't know what to do. It's just you're by yourself. You're by yourself with everything happening. And then it all just came crashing down. It was April 29th, 2021. And my husband was on shift again. And he works 24 on, 24 off, and then 24 on, 5 days off. During COVID, though, because they were short staffed, it was all over the place. He could be gone for 24 hours or he could be gone for 48 hours. You just didn't know. But it was April 29th. I had just put my daughter down to bed and I was hit with the most, the intrusive thoughts. And like I said, I've always been a very mentally strong person. These shook me to my core. And it wasn't like I'm going to hurt my baby or anything. It was, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. And I think too, I look at a lot of women who are married to firefighters and they're just very strong, independent women. It really takes a special, unique person to be married to a first responder. Yep. So it's something where it's like, I can't believe this is happening to me. I don't know what's going on. I didn't recognize myself and my thoughts. And I remember texting my husband. I said, hey, I'm having these weird thoughts. I don't know what's going on. I just don't feel right. And they were short-staffed. And so he was like, it was almost midnight. He's like, I can't leave. And I was like, I know. And I was just like, I just need, like, I need you to be available, whether that be for texting or whatnot. And so he's like, okay. And of course, he was at a busy station. So that doesn't help. And so I had to text a friend. It was so bad. Like, I had to have someone come sit with me until he got home.
Mhm.
And so that's when my first experience with postpartum anxiety and depression hit me. It came out of left field, and it was, I mean, it rocked me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so this was with your first.
This was my first.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was very smart. I've always kind of been, like I said, very strong-headed and just thinking like, okay, something's wrong. I need to address it. And so I made an appointment with my doctor. It was really interesting. The first thing they wanted to do was just throw medication at me. They didn't ask me like, hey, how are you sleeping? You're a new mom. What are you
Right.
eating? What are you drinking? It was, oh, don't worry. This is totally normal. We're just going to go ahead and give you a couple medications, one for an acute panic attack and then one for the longevity. And I was thinking, this is not what I want to do. Like, I'm not a medication person. And so I took it. The prescription, but I didn't actually take the medication. I just had it on hand knowing like, okay, let's try something else. I got into some therapy, was very, very lucky to get a therapist who works with working moms, and especially in postpartum. So she was very competent in the area in which I needed help, which I am so grateful for. And I think that's like a big thing that people don't understand. It's like when you try and find a therapist, it's almost like dating. Like
Yes.
you
No,
have
you're
to
completely
find,
correct. Mm-hmm.
yeah, you have to like go through a few, but I got very lucky with the first one. And so I was with her for a number of years, and then we decided, okay, we're ready for number 2. And so I felt we were at a good spot. Again, we started trying for number 2. Being older, it took a little bit of time, and then lo and behold, pregnant with number 2. And I'm thinking, I've had this crazy experience with number 1, and we're far enough away from the height of the pandemic. Like, I'm gonna have a good experience this time, because like the first time there wasn't a baby shower, there wasn't any of that.
Mm.
And so I thought, okay, this round I'm gonna make it, like, it's going to be so much better. So we are so elated. I had the worst morning sickness, and then at about 20 weeks I started feeling very bloated, and I went into the hospital finally. My husband, he had just come off shift, and I was like, hey, I'm in so much pain. So we
Mhm.
went in, and they said, oh, it's your appendix.
Oh gosh.
So, which I was like, I didn't know you could do this. So
Mhm.
they said, you've got 2 options. We can give you an IV antibiotic and send you home, or we can do surgery. But I didn't know that if they give you an IV antibiotic when you're pregnant, you are 6 times more likely to rupture. So
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Oh my goodness.
So it was about noon, and they said, we have a slot open for surgery at 4. We need a decision. And I thought to myself, okay, I have this baby in me. Let me talk to my OB. I've got questions. Can I phone a friend? Like,
Right.
and so we looked at it, and my husband was going to be going on shift the next day. And I was like, I need you to call in because I'm having surgery. So we had surgery. I had surgery. And then about 4 hours later, they could not control the pain I was having, to the point where everything that they could give someone pregnant was not touching the pain. And so I had to go back in for a second surgery because they thought they possibly could have nicked the uterus or something else. So they went back in, they searched all around. Turns out there's a very rare chance that the gas from surgery can get trapped to a point where your body can't absorb it. And that's what happened. So I had 2 places in my body where it got trapped. And when I came out of surgery, my hair was soaked. And I said, did you guys wash it? I'm thinking to myself, like, that was so sweet of them. She goes, no, honey, you were sweating so profusely that like we had to change your gown, your bedding, everything.
Oh my goodness.
So then I was recovering from that. Fast forward to delivering, we had a scheduled C-section, and they said, if you start to have contractions, you need to get to the hospital ASAP. My husband's 6'7", I'm 5'11", so we got big babies.
Big babies. Mm-hmm.
So we get there, and I was scheduled for January 9th, and on January 8th at about 11:30, I started having contractions. And I thought, these aren't too bad. It'll be fine.
Oh,
And
no.
then like 12:31 hit, and I was like, oof, these are bad. So we get to the hospital, they call my OB. She said, let's get to 8 a.m. and we'll just stay on schedule. So we got the 8 a.m., stayed on schedule, get into the OR. They're giving me my spinal. And we had talked and discussed about, I have a very sensitive vena cava vein. And they said, we're going to put a wedge under it. You're going to be fine. So I get on the table. After I get my spinal, we lie down, I'm lying there, and I had the most like interesting anesthesiologist, like very nice, very quirky, like they all are. But we just were very good at communicating, like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. And then all of a sudden I could feel my ears muffle and my ears started to ring. And I told them, I said, hey, I'm about to pass out. And I said, you need to do something. And then at that moment, it was like everything was like it just stopped. And what happened was I bottomed out and coded, and then they called code on me. And then my son, he went into distress. His heart rate dropped into like the low 60s. They called code on him. So we had, from what I was told, like over like 20 people in the room. Everyone's rushing. My poor husband, who, again, you have this firefighter, he's in the waiting area. He's not even in the room. And I just look over and I finally was starting to stabilize. I look over and he's just standing in the window, like just waving. And they basically they let him in right as they were ripping my son out of me. And I say rip, they literally from cut to having him out under 30 seconds.
Yep.
And he wasn't crying, and I was just terrified. I was like, okay, something's not right. They rushed him to the NICU right away. He was fine. We both made it out. But there was a moment where, all I remember is my OB was just screaming at me, seeing if I was responsive, because they were about to cut me open and they needed to know if they needed to put me out completely or if this was going to be okay. I was very fortunate and got stabilized, and they delivered him. And the next thing I know, they were closing me up and I was being wheeled back to recovery. And I looked in the room and it just, there was blood everywhere.
I bet.
And so they just asked, and even my doctor, she goes, do you have a therapist? And I said, yeah. And I was like, and I will be emailing her right away. Because it was one of those that even the doctors and the nurses in the room, they had to offer counseling as an option. And I felt bad because there was a girl she was a nursing student, and it was her very first day of shadowing.
Oh my goodness.
Was her very first case. And I just remember at one point she comes over and grabs my hand. She's like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to hold your hand. And I just think to myself, I'm like, I hope this girl even continued.
Mm-hmm.
But that was, talk about it, you work on yourself for so much, through therapy, and then boom, you're hit with this.
And it's like taking 20 steps backwards.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and, I looked at the first round, like my husband did. He was very supportive. Obviously, he's trying to figure out being a dad for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it during a pandemic. He was working his shift, but then he got put on to, it was a supervisor shift at one of the COVID sites that his department was overseeing. So he was, he's exposed to COVID patients all day. Mm-hmm. Monday through Saturday, he was working. And so he was working he'd leave the house at 6 a.m. and want to get home till about 7 p.m. Oof. So that was, the schedule changed and, you're working through it all. But yeah, then after the second experience, it was something where we're like, oh, I just thought, okay, I've been through this before, I can do it again. And then just having to process everything through with my therapist. There was so much stuff that just got completely suppressed. And my son's now 20 months old. And at his first birthday, I had terrible PTSD flashbacks. And it was something that kind of like the first round with the intrusive thoughts, the flashbacks, I've never experienced anything like that, but it takes you literally back. And my job at the time, I was going into hospitals, I'm going into, these healthcare facilities. And so, and I actually had to go back into the hospital where I delivered. And it was just, you hear code being called over the intercom and you're just like, okay, well, that was me at one point. Mm-hmm. So it's very eye-opening.
But good for you for realizing that you needed to see someone, that those intrusive thoughts were not normal, mm-hmm. and that you knew and reached out to somebody who could help you, right? Because that's one of the biggest things I think for us as moms is this stigma that we don't need to talk about it. We can handle everything. We are very strong individuals, but we also tend to overlook ourselves and put
Hmm.
everyone else first. And then by the time we actually get to ourselves, it's not not good, right?
Yeah.
So that's really amazing of you to first reach out to your husband and say, I know you can't come home, but I need you to be available. Even if he couldn't, just reaching out and for him to say, I'll do my best. But, and then also to just say, no, I need to talk to somebody about this. This is not normal. And I don't like this feeling and I don't want to continue to feel this way. So, I commend you for that. We need to encourage more of that. Okay.
Yes, yes, and that's something, that's what, first off, I'm so honored to be talking with you because I'm like, if it can help one person to take that step and to pick up the phone or Google search or jump on a platform where you can look up a counselor or a therapist, like that I truly believe. I have to look back at what I've gone through and just think to myself, okay, how can I use this to help somebody else?
Yeah, yeah. I have a list that I've been composing now for a couple of years. Just for me in particular, just always looking for those culturally competent therapists because it's very important. Because I
Mhm.
don't think there's a lot of therapists out there that understand the shift life the way
Mhm.
we need them to, because it's so different.
Mhm.
So, it's been a great list to have and utilize when there's those spouses that are looking for help, even for firefighters,
Mhm.
because we all know they need it too. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's something too that like my husband we just talked about this recently, one of the things that has really been eye-opening for him is because of his job and the nature of his job. I mean, let's be real, like they're taught to just suppress what they see. And they see some of the worst things out there that an average human being like yourself, myself, we're not set up to process that. And so they are taught just from being on the job to just push it down. And so that's something where my husband has said, like, watching me go through my experience has made him realize that he needs to be more aware, not about just himself, but also to those on a shift or
Mm,
even just those outside, obviously outside a shift in the department. Um, and I think, especially now, I really do feel like talking about it more and having those lists that are people who are vetted, therapists that are vetted to work with first responders. I think that's now starting to gain some momentum
mhm.
and hopefully will actually help some of these men and women.
Oh, I know it will. I know it will. I think, like you said, the more we talk about it, the more we bring it to light, it makes people more comfortable sharing their stories and also more comfortable knowing, wait, I'm not the only one.
Mhm.
This does affect more than just me, and this is normal, and I can get help, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal. Oh my goodness, what a traumatic birth story. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still trying to wrap my head around it, and it wasn't even me.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's like the short version of it. There was so much more to it that, I that was one thing that I don't even tell people much about it because everyone has this, oh, I had this wonderful birth and, I only pushed twice and my baby was here. And I'm like, okay.
I won't tell you my story. It's
And
fine.
I was like, I don't want to scare anybody. But so that's one thing. It's like, I've had to learn just like to be okay to talk about it because you do learn when you are pregnant and you have babies. It's like, there is no normal. There's no
Yes.
normal. And that's, things can go south very quickly. And it's something where it's like, I am so thankful for the healthcare team, the doctors and nurses, and just how quick they can think on their feet.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is a crazy story. And it's funny, I had a therapist on last week and we were talking too. She also had babies during COVID and my kids are older, so we were in the thick of homeschooling,
Mm,
which is a whole
I'm
nother
into you.
traumatic experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had no choice. I became a
Yeah.
teacher all of a sudden overnight. But it's so interesting to me to hear the stories from the spouses who's had to go through a pregnancy and birth during COVID. I don't even like on a regular day, having a regular pregnancy and being, already nervous, and then to compound it with COVID and the unknowns, plus having a firefighter as your spouse and not knowing what they're going to bring home every day. And just, I don't know how you guys did that.
Yeah. It was something we definitely set up, obviously when I found out I was pregnant, there was so many unknowns. And then you started hearing all these stories about women who were pregnant and got COVID. And we were like, okay, we need to set up some kind of boundaries. And I said, when you get off shift, basically leave as much as you can at the station. And then when you come home, it sounds crazy, but at the time I was like, you just need to like get in the shower, clothes go in the hamper, we wash them. Because we had no idea. Now, we weren't like these crazy, let's sanitize everything, but I was like, okay, we do need to take some precautions until we figure out what is going on. So it was something where it was like, okay, like you're being exposed the most, so you go to the grocery store.
Yep.
So it's just little things like that we had to like change. And then it was like, but then you always have to make sure like, okay, when are you going on shift? Is there enough stuff in the house? Like what needs to be done? It wasn't living in fear, but it was just like you had to do it differently to make sure you had a healthy pregnancy. And that was, even going to appointments. I remember we showed up for one, and that was when they said he could go to it. And he showed up and they're like, sorry, there's been a spike. You can't come in. So he only went into like maybe 3 appointments the entire pregnancy.
Wow.
Yeah. So, that alone, it just was like, it's not a normal experience for him. So
Yeah.
he's being kind of cheated out on this experience as well. And then having to carry that at work, I'm like, okay, now I've got to like make sure that I keep things in check because I have to go home. So it was just, it was a stressful time for so many people, but it's just, you have this thing just kind of hanging over your head that wasn't normal, that you can't, that just added to the stress. So I look back at when I started having these intrusive thoughts after my daughter was born and how it had actually probably compounded from the start of the pregnancy. And it just kind of hit me all in one night.
Sorry, my dog is going crazy. Just hear him running back and forth. I'm like, what are you doing over there, buddy? Okay. Oh, here he comes. Hey.
Join you.
Oh, see him in the back? He's hot. Oh my goodness. Okay. Besides the trauma of COVID baby number 1, and then your very traumatic birth experience number 2, how has being a fire family affected you differently than what you thought?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was something where I think because my brother's a police officer, and so he has been in for, I think, 17 years. Obviously seeing it from the outside, not being obviously near him, but that was something where I had the exposure of like shift work. And I think, he has shared stories with me about stuff he deals with. So I knew that they deal with death. They deal with, horrific situations as firefighters. So, when I married my husband, I was like, I knew going into it, I think, just things to watch out for. Because that's one thing I'm like, you hear the stories, and I think you just have to be very open in communicating. And so like my husband and I, we always have like when he gets off shift, I'm always just asking like, hey, like, like where are you at? Like, how are you feeling? Because you have to know at like what level that they are, where they're at. Because I'm like, if you're coming home to 2 kids, like I need to know if you're running at like 25%, maybe I need to take the kids out, go to the park and like have a quiet place for you to come home. So it's stuff like that an average person doesn't need to check in with probably their spouse like that, where I'm like, where are you at? Are you going back on shift the next day? Do you have 5 days? Where are you at? And so that's just been really important because I think it does allow us to then have grace for each other in those situations where we can be like, hey, you had a really rough night, or vice versa. For me, he asks too, like, hey, how was your night? Because especially when, our kiddos were small, I'd be like, how much were you up? So we have this thing where I'm always just like, hey, how many calls did you have? And he'll be like, oh, we had 2 calls after midnight. He's like, what about you? And I'm like, oh, I had 4. So we kind of like count it because it's like you kind of get stuck in that like, well, he could be like, well, I'm at work, I'm the one, being up all night. And it can be very easy for, your spouse to forget like, hey, you're at home with kids. We also have 2 dogs. So I've got 2 kids, 2 dogs. So it was more of like, how many times were you up? Was it a 2 alarm? Because I mean, there was one night when both kids were up and the
Hmm.
dogs were up, and I'm like, yeah, it was like a 2 alarm, like
Yep.
for the last 2 hours. Um,
But
so that's
that's
just,
perfect because
yeah,
it helps them when you speak, especially when you speak in like firefighter lingo, it helps
yeah,
them, right? They're like, "Oh, I know
yes,
what this is. Okay, yeah, that's okay." Makes more sense to them, right?
yeah. How we just tie in every morning. So, but it's actually, it's been really good. It's helped us a lot, and that's something that I talk to other fire wives. I'm like, this is what we do because I'm like, it helps greatly, especially when you have young kids, because I mean, you're both drained.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Yes. Yes. I mean, it's still draining when they're teenagers, but it's a different drain. Okay.
that's
It's
what I've
just.
heard. That's what I've heard.
So you talked about in the beginning how you didn't have a village during COVID. Obviously,
Mhm,
everybody's village was non-existent because we were being very cautious for a while there.
mhm.
How's your village now?
So it's really interesting. So my husband and I both come from very small families. And we have my mother in law, she lives 15 minutes away. My parents live, unfortunately, it's like 2.5, 3 hours away. And so we really rely on his mom and his aunt a lot. They live very close to us. And it's been great. But the hard part is, I think nowadays it's really interesting to see the shift where I would say back for like my mom, she like had friends and she had all these like resources, but like nowadays it's like you don't have people that go outside and play in the front yard and you can't connect with people easily. So, we've found our village within our faith community, and then also like the fire community. So, whether they're in state or out of state, one of my really best friends, she lives in California. Her husband's a firefighter down there. And so we always joke, like we'll text each other and be like, it only happens when he's on shift, and we'll put the story. And I'll just be like, the water main broke or the dog threw up all over. So she and
Yep.
I always kind of joke about that. But just to have that outlet to someone who understands, even if they can't be near you, I think it's so important to have connection with other fire wives, especially if they have young kids and they're in the same stage of life, because you have that understanding of like, oh my gosh, I was up all night, or hey, he's gone or he got forced, or, you just have this understanding because when I talk to my friends who have zero understanding, they literally look at me like I'm talking a foreign language and they look at me like, how do you even do this? And you just think, well, this is my life. Like, this is what we're used to. I think the big thing with little kids too, it's, my husband goes off to work and the first thing my daughter asks in the morning when she wakes up is, where's daddy?
Hmm.
He's on shift. When's he coming home? And I'm like,
Hmm.
you hope to have the right answer. Yeah. You just kind of throw it up and you're like,
Hmm.
hopefully tomorrow. I don't
Right.
know though. Um, and I'm very thankful for technology when it comes to like FaceTime. So thankful for that. And it's something where it's like, if they're not busy, if it's around dinner time, we'll do a quick FaceTime so the kids can check in, and just see dad. And then that way they know, like, okay, like even if it's a couple days or a few days, whatever, like they can see dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously, thank God for technology.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Okay. You sound like you have got the balance down pretty well.
Hmm.
What is one thing that you do for yourself every day?
Oh, I make sure I make my cup of coffee in the morning. That is my absolute, like, I don't even care if kids are screaming. I'm like, I've got to get that cup going. But for me too, is I try and take like just even 10 minutes to myself. And this has taken a long time through all the therapy sessions to like get to the point where I am okay to be like, hey, plop the kid down in front of the TV for 10, 20 minutes. That is fine, and then put the other one either down for a nap or in his crib. Like, it is fine, but go lie down for 10 minutes. Like, go, go put on like makeup or do
Mm-hmm.
something. That is something that I've now gotten to the point where it's almost a non-negotiable. Even just telling myself in the morning, get up, get ready, and just go. So that for me, I try and get back there. I was also someone who, before kids, I was a very avid person when it came to working out. And so then you throw 2 kids in the picture and shift work, you don't get a normal workout schedule. So finding creative ways too to just get out and move my body. So it's like, I'll put the kid in the stroller, the other one gets their scooter, and I'm like, let's go. We're going for a walk. I don't
Yep.
even care.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing how much it really like changes your perspective though too when you just take that little 10-15 minutes, just go outside, just
Hmm.
switch your brain to something else, and it really grounds you. I know it
Hmm.
sounds so cliche, but it is so true. It's so necessary for us too.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. I ask everyone this question. What legacy do you hope to leave? Your family, your kids, anything.
Yeah. It's really interesting. So if I were to have that question before experiencing everything I did with mental health with postpartum, the answer would have been totally different. I think now having gone through everything that I have, for me, it's just trying to make sure that my kids know, like, one, it is okay to ask for help, and two, don't wait. And then the other part too is, I look at it and like, you hear about like the generational cycles and breaking them. And I know some people are very worried to go to therapy because they just worry about what it's going to open. What can is it going to open? And that's something where it's like, I went to therapy for postpartum anxiety and depression, and it opened a whole can of worms I did not expect. But you like have to be able to look at it and be like, you are doing the work now, even if it's hard and challenging and not fun. You are doing the work now that will pay dividends to yourself, to your spouse, to your children later on. And so that's the one thing that I hope to leave for my children, is just to be like, you know what? It's worth working on yourself, even if it's hard to look in the mirror, because it's only going to help you and others around you in the future.
Agree more with you. Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for
Yeah.
hanging out with me today. Where can people find you if they want to chat with
Yeah.
you more?
So if you want to, yeah, I'm just an average fire wife, but I'm on on social on Instagram at Cleats13. It's actually my maiden name, but I had it because when I was working in baseball, it was
Very
so
cute.
yeah. So I kept it.
Hmm.
Even I know most people change it when they get married. I kept it because I just love baseball, and I'm not going to change it. So yeah, Instagram at Cleats13.
You think you'll ever go back to MLB?
I've thought about it. It's something we have family members who we have my husband's cousin actually plays baseball, so there's still that connection in Major League Baseball. I don't know what we'll do when that ends. It,
Man, that's so
it's
rad.
yeah, it's really fun. Maybe one day when I like retire, I'll go work there part-time.
Dream job right there.
I
Okay. Oh my
know.
gosh.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kristen. I appreciate you so
Yes.
much.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Stop.